Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Suzanne and today I'm talking about elderberry vinegar, which is a fantastic replacement for balsamic vinegar. They're not the same thing, but still it makes a wonderful dressing, and also if you age it out correctly you can drink it off the spoon. I love it. So anyway, this is a batch I've already done, and here is a batch that's now waiting to be filtered and boiled with its sugar added. And it does need boiling because it has compounds in it the same way as apple seeds or cherry pits. So we can't eat these raw, or at least not many of them, without upsetting our stomach. So we need to boil it for a good 10 minutes. Now in this jar there is 800 grams of fresh berries with a litre of vinegar, and I've used red wine vinegar, but you can use any vinegar you want really, it's quite up to you. And this is steeped in here for 4 days. Now I've squashed my berries, some people like to leave them whole, and you can adapt this recipe in its quantities to suit you. Also, you don't need a jar, you can put it in a bowl, but you would have to cover it because this is vinegar and vinegar attracts fruit flies. So as you can see, this is an absolute beautiful colour. You see in these bottles too. I love this stuff. And I actually have some in my cupboard in a bottle this size that I made 10 years ago, because that's how long it is since I last made any of this. And you can drink this off a spoon. It's that good. But it does need to age out and mellow to be able to do that, I think. So once we put it to this stage, you're going to need your bowls, a sieve, and something to strain it through. So ladle for later. I have a piece of cheesecloth, muslin, and a jelly bag. Now fair warning, this stuff does stain because you saw the colour that's in it, and it is beautiful, as you'll see in a little while. But you can see round the edge of my jelly bag where it's stained and not come out. It will come out of some things after a repeated wash, but it doesn't come out of everything. You don't necessarily need one of these, but I do, because my dexterity is rubbish and I will end up with it all over my kitchen if I don't. So that's just to help you get it into your bottles. Obviously a jug for pouring. And you need quite a heavy pan because, like I said, you need to boil this for 10 minutes to get rid of those toxic compounds in it. You're also going to need sugar. You can use honey, but if you're going to use honey, I'd wait to add it, especially if you're using raw honey, because you don't want to destroy the really good compounds that are in raw honey. So I'd wait until after you've boiled this and let it cool down before you add honey into this. But if you're just adding sugar into it like I'm going to do, then you can add that in once it comes up to the boil. And for every 200 grams of berries you need 100 grams of sugar, so that will give you ratios. However, I mean, if you want your vinegar a little bit sharper, you don't have to add as much. Add it to taste if you like. It's quite a versatile recipe. So I'll be back with you in a moment when I've set this up for straining. So now I've placed my muslin cloth first into the sieve, which is over the bowl. And I also turn my jelly bag inside out so that all the seeds and things don't get caught in the seam of the bag. And then I use my jug to pour into there. And I'll just keep doing that because it's easier for me to do this in small batches rather than trying to tip the whole thing in. Also, any of the berries, you'll see that some of them might not even be crushed, but you can give those a squeeze when you're done. Don't put the spoon into that pan like I was just about to do. That would be ridiculous because then you're going to get all the seeds and things in there. As you can now see, most of this is strained through, and you can see the beautiful colour that it is and how much it will stain. And now you'll just want to give this a good squeeze to get all that juice out. And this is why I like to do it through my jelly bag to collect all of the berries and the seeds. But also, because my hands aren't what they used to be, I can actually use this to twist it, because my hands are now getting really arthritic. I have carpal tunnel syndrome, degenerative joint disease. You could just tie this up and leave it to drain overnight, but I don't actually have anywhere in my kitchen to do that. And there you can see my hands don't actually like doing that, but you can also see the stain that causes. So, other top tip, have a bowl of soapy hot water, because then you can wash everything as you go in, and that helps to prevent the staining too. So that whilst there's possibly more I can get out of that, I'm actually going to leave it. Move your bowl as close to your pan as possible and hitch those over. Now what I will do is move this across so all that can filter through into the pan, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse this cloth out, because as you can see it's quite thick with the sediments and things that have come out. And so because I want to filter this again into the pan, I don't want it taking a ton of time trying to get through what it's already filtered. So I will quickly rinse this out. But isn't that just a superb colour? So I'll be back in a moment. So as you can see, I've now rinsed this out, and the colour has already changed on this, but again still a pretty colour. So now all I'm going to do is use my ladle and ladle across from the bowl and strain this liquid one more time into my pan. The other thing we're going to want to do while this comes up to the boil is get our bottles ready. And to do that, I'm going to have them washed, sterilised and hot, because you do not want this boiling liquid going into cold bottles. So this is now about to come to the boil. I know that because I can hear it, and I can hear the change. It's to do with the bubbles that are forming on the top and how it's about to start the roll. So I'm about to turn this down slightly because it will quickly, you can see here where the bubbles are starting to come up from the top, and it will very quickly start to boil over because this is a glass top and I'm going to move it, which you'd think would be counterproductive, But with this not being a gas oven, these glass tops do not cool down immediately. And so something like this will very quickly boil over. I could have actually done with it being in a bigger pan, but I didn't want to get my massive jelly pan out just to do this for a few minutes. So now as this starts to cool down, I can inch it back. And from here, I'm going to start counting down 10 minutes. And what I can also do is add in the sugar at this point. So add in little bits at a time so I don't splash this absolutely everywhere. It will take it momentarily off the boil, but it'll quickly come back up. And again, I'd rather do it this way than it boil over. Now I'm using just white sugar here because it's what I've got in. But normally for something like this, I'd prefer organic cane sugar, but we just couldn't get hold of it. So now we can move that back onto the heat. And you want to keep stirring that if you're using sugar until it dissolves. And let this come back up to a rolling boil and do that for 10 minutes. So our 10 minutes is up, and as you can see, the bubbles here on the top have got thicker but also quite a bit darker. Now you won't be able to see it on this side because of the bubbles, well, the foam as it's now become, but on this edge here, what you'd see from the liquid pushing up is that this has reduced somewhat because it is on a boil. Well, it's more of a simmer, but it is reducing slightly. Now at this stage, if you wanted to, you could turn it down a bit and you could reduce it even further to produce a thicker, more syrupy vinegar. That's entirely up to you. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it at this stage because for me, I struggle in the kitchen. I have very limited energy, but I also struggle standing up for long periods of time. I'm actually barefoot, but I have a Duronic mat to be able to stand on so that it's easier on my joints and things. Although if you're going to turn this down, you could just walk away and leave it, or you could probably, I've never tried it so I don't know for sure, but you could probably put this in a slow cooker and try reducing it that way. I don't know if that would actually work, but you could give it a try. All I'm going to do now is skim this foam off the top, just the same as you would do with jam, and get rid of that, and then we'll bottle this up. Now here you can see I have one of my large sterilised warm bottles ready for this liquid to be poured into, along with the funnel. So hopefully I don't make an absolute mess of my kitchen. And even with all the will in the world, there's still always the chance that absolute carnage in this kitchen happens. So a little bit of overfill, because I can't always see what I'm doing, you see, trying to film and do things, not a good idea. But anyway, this will sink down as it cools anyway, but I'm going to have to try and get a little bit out of that and then get it shut. And so there we have it. There we have the finished elderberry vinegar, and you can use that any way that you would use balsamic vinegar. I hope you like this. I hope you enjoy the recipe. Please leave me a comment down below if you do, or if you have another different recipe, because I also use this recipe for raspberry vinegar too. Again, leave it down below in the comments. Sorry I'm out of breath, but I'm absolutely exhausted. And but I hope you like this. I hope you'll share. I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll come back again. Thanks, and bye for now.